Good evening, everyone. My name is Eric Heinz. I'm the editor of the 5 West Metro newspapers for Colorado Community Media, which includes the Canyon Courier. We'd like to thank you for joining us tonight for this forum for the Elk Creek Fire Protection District Board of Directors. Tonight, we are intent on fostering a respectful, informative, and inclusive environment where candidates and community members feel heard and valued. To accomplish this, here are some codes of conduct we will hold as standard. No interruptions. Candidates and audience members must allow speakers to finish. Respectful language only. I assume that won't be a problem. So no name calling, personal attacks, or inflammatory statements. Equal treatment. All candidates will get the same amount of time and will be asked the same or comparable questions. We will, of course, ask the audience not to cheer or jeer, and please hold your applause until the end. Director of Editorial, Linda Shapley, will be our official timekeeper. She will put up a sign at 30 seconds and at 10 seconds before getting the bell. There it is. When the bell goes off, we'll give our candidates the opportunity to finish their sentence, but no more than 5 seconds. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce the candidates. He has been a Conifer resident since 2000 and works in tech support for Radiant Underflow Heating. He's a retired Elk Creek and North Fork firefighter for more than 20 years and a Rocky Mountain chapter of Wind and Fire Motorcycle Club. Please welcome Michael Bartlett. And he has been a Conifer resident since 2019, a retired telecom sales and business development professional, and a community fire ambassador for Conifer Wildland Division. Please welcome Al Leo. She has been a Conifer resident since 2018 and is a geotechnical engineer as well as a Colorado Professional Firefighter Foundation board member. Former Ken Carl HOA board member, and is married to a retired West Metro firefighter. Please welcome Kathleen Noonan. He has been a Conifer resident since 2011 and is a semi-retired energy control manager for Mile High Theatrical. Please welcome Thomas Seymour. Last, we've got, he has been a Conifer resident since 1992 and is the owner of Altitude Electric, and he is a former Elk Creek Fire volunteer firefighter. Please welcome Todd Wagner. All right, and so we're going to kick this off with opening statements. This will be limited to 1 minute per candidate. Unfortunately, I just have the one microphone, so we will have to share a little bit. But we will start off with Michael Bartlett, and so I will pass the microphone down to you now.
Well, probably most of everybody in here knows me. I've been around Conifer for a long time, working, volunteering, and living, paying taxes in several houses around here. I had some rental properties and stuff as well. I'm thinking the bio sounded pretty good, so I don't need a whole minute to bore everybody with my details. But.
All right, well, thank you all for coming out tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. I'm going to use this time to kind of say, why am I running? Supporting my community in the district through volunteering with the Community Ambassador Program has really become my passion, and I'm running for the board as the next step in my commitment to make a positive impact on the community. The Board of Directors seat is a serious responsibility. The Fire Protection District provides life-saving services with taxpayer money, and I'm committed to ensuring the Fire District has what it needs to meet the service needs of the residents in a fiscally responsible manner. I believe in strengthening Elk Creek Fire Protection District to prepare for the future. That's why I'm running for the board.
Could everybody hear that all right? I forgot to mention, if you could hold the microphone a little bit closer to when you speak, but was that good with everybody? Okay, great.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Noonan. I've lived in Colorado for 30 years and I'm a proud member of the fire family. My husband Jerry recently retired from West Metro after 21 years of service as a firefighter, paramedic, wildland firefighter, and engineer. My daughter graduated from Conifer High School in 2023. I have a bachelor's degree in civil engineering from Virginia Tech and a master's degree in geotechnical engineering from CU Boulder. I own an engineering firm in Englewood, Colorado that has been in business for 53 years and serve on its board of directors. Prior to moving to Conifer, I served on my HOA board for 11 years. I currently serve on the board of the Colorado Professional Firefighters Foundation, the charitable arm of the CPFF that provides assistance to firefighters and their families in their times of need. Public service and community connection have always been important to me, and I'm excited to bring both experience and heart to this process. I'd be honored to serve this community on the Elk Creek board. Thank you for everyone for attending and to the Canyon Courier for hosting.
Hi, my name is Tom Seymour. I care about this community. Our personal safety relies on the local Elk Creek Fire Prevention District and its resources. The firefighters and department have done an excellent job. Over the years, my wife and I have been involved in assisting funding for the Elk Creek Fire Protection District and maintaining sustainable growth in the Conifer area. Our family has been very blessed, and I would appreciate the opportunity to give back to the community and serve on the board. I have the time and the willingness to listen to all parties involved in decision making. My commitment to the taxpayers is unwavering. We must respect that the residents juggle busy lives, and Elk Creek cannot be their only concern. Our goal should be to inform the community, not pressure them with scare tactics. My previous experience as a union negotiator, business owner, hourly employee, and listening to all sides and the experts made the candidates that I would ask you to vote for.
Good evening. Thank you for coming. My name is Todd Wagner. Like some of you know, I volunteered with Elk Creek for just under 9 years. Been a member of the community for over 30 years. Raised kids here, many friends and family. With growing up at the fire department, I have lifelong friends and family. I'm running for the board because I think I have a good business sense. I understand the firefighter mentality, the things that go on with being a firefighter. I think that I can lend a lot of support in that aspect. I'm 100% behind firefighters, as well as I'm 100% behind our taxpayers. I think we need to utilize the monies that we have in a good manner, and I think I'd be a good candidate for the board. I look forward to having your vote.
All right, thank you all. So we're going to kick off the questions. I'm going to start in the same order that we started and then try to rotate as we go. So for our first question, and I'll be handing this back to Michael shortly, but with the recent decision by the Jefferson County Commission to allow unification and the possibility of further litigation in court, how confident are you in the future of the unification with Conifer Fire, and are you in favor of unification or not?
Well, first of all, there's no such thing as a unification. It's called consolidation. It's part of Title 32 of the CRS. And in general, what I have seen presented so far in the consolidation efforts doesn't really talk to how much this is really going to cost. We never had anybody say anything about rebranding costs, even though it's in all of the reports. It's in the Triton report. It talks about rebranding costs. There's probably, if you look around, there's 5 engines and 4 tenders and 2 brush trucks that are more than 20 years old in our districts that surround us. The cost of replacing those immediately is going to probably be more than $7 million that's not accounted for in anybody's books. I really believe in data-based decision-making, and I have a lot of data, and the data wasn't presented to the taxpayers fairly in that last go-round. I believe that the commissioners are elected officials that can't lose the union vote, and they had to do what they did if they want to be reelected.
The Jefferson County Board of County Commissioners ruling basically affirmed that the Title 32 laws were followed by Elk Creek and all the other districts. So as far as I'm concerned, that's a green light for unification to move forward. Do I support unification? Absolutely. Why do I support unification? 6 more firefighters, a second 24/7 staffed fire station to meet our community's needs. A larger set of resources requires less reliance on mutual aid and better response times. So I support unification. There's a larger budget. There seems to be a mentality that we lose something with unification. That's incorrect. The budget for Conifer Fire right now is about $1.8 million. They've got about $3 million in the bank. Those are all added to what Elk Creek fire residents already have. So I think it's a net win. I'm in favor of it. The litigation is appalling. This isn't trying to fight against a high-density apartment complex. This isn't a bike park. This is interfering with public safety, and it's appalling a board member is working against it.
Like Al, I'm for unification. I attended the Board of County Commissioners meeting last Tuesday, and they affirmed that the board followed the law. As far as I'm concerned, there is a difference between unification and consolidation. Unification does not go along with a mill levy increase. There will actually be a mill levy decrease because Elk Creek Fire will become part of North Fork's mill levy, which is at 12, which is less than we currently pay now. Unification, I support it 100%. It'll maximize resources, improve services. There will be no stations that close. It'll improve allocation of staff and equipment. It will also eliminate the duplication of resources. For example, there are currently 2 training captains. There will only be need for 1. However, no one will lose their job. They'll just have a different assignment. A lot of people say unification is the same as if we just have mutual aid. Mutual aid is not always available. If you have 2 fully staffed fire stations, one of which will be at Windy Point, one of the highest accident areas on the 285 corridor, we will have a paramedic there ready to respond in case of a medical emergency. It'll result in more robust and well-rounded crews, and it'll be easier to fund capital improvements once we unify.
I'd like to say that the frustration and confusion we saw last November stemmed from combining the mill levy increase with consolidation. I have studied both the consolidation and the exclusion agreements. Voters should have received a detailed breakdown of the costs as well as the benefits. Monday morning quarterbacking is easy. Since consolidation and unification is in the legal system, my views on it are somewhat irrelevant now. What is done is done. It is in the past and should not be revisited at the taxpayer's expense. I firmly believe that had consolidation not been lumped in with the mill levy increase last November, we would likely not be here today. Knowing the taxpayers carefully read the ballot, the board might have been more sensitive and informative to the voters. Mailing information for a meeting at Station 1, knowing that people were not available and there was no requirement for them to be considered, was problematic and has led to distrust of the board. Consolidation was an important issue and might have been dealt with differently. A full disclosure of the costs and benefits of consolidation, as well as the planned expenditures, should have been presented to the voters. Having read the pre-consolidation agreement of May 23rd and the First Amendment agreement of September 24th, I support the consolidation, but my concern is relinquishing all the assets of Elk Creek.
So ultimately, a lot of points that I wanted to address have just been spoken. Am I for consolidation? The way that it's being handled currently, I would say no. Simply because I think we're looking at one aspect, and we're not looking at many, many aspects that were covered in this report that we spent tens of thousands of dollars on. We have spent so much money on trying to push forth consolidation, unification, however you want to call it. But yet we haven't spent the money that we need to continue to bring in more recruits, more volunteers, trying to retain the volunteers that we have. That, in my mind, is the number one thing about this whole deal. And it looks as though obviously it's very easy to hire more firefighters. There are dozens and dozens of them out there. Finding the volunteers is the biggest hurdle that we need to accomplish. And I think that needs to be the tip of the spear here. And I think we need to try and bring in more people and keep the people that we have and grow our foundation that way. It's imperative.
Thank you so much. So as I mentioned, we're going to sort of rotate the order of things. So this next question will start with Al, and then we will finish with Michael. This next question is, we've heard from professional firefighters and we've seen some of the data ourselves. And the question is we understand that it's been very difficult to recruit and retain volunteer firefighters right now. What do you believe are the best ways to recruit and retain volunteer firefighters? And here you are, Al.
Great. Thank you very much. I think the thing we've got to look at is that the district is evolving as well as the loads being placed on it, and the community is evolving. So I think one of the things we can do for recruiting volunteers is provide a career path, all right? Provide an opportunity to come in as a volunteer, get training, get experience, and then work into a full-time professional career role so that you can live and grow in this community. This is a problem that is nationwide. If you look at any fire organization, Department of Fire Prevention Control here in Colorado, U.S. Forest Service, Colorado Forest Service, volunteer retention and attraction is a big issue. So some of the things that they are doing, Elk Creek, it's Conifer Fire actually already do. All right, they provide stipends, they provide training, they provide a point system, they provide funding for additional training. I think those things are the things that are being invested in and are worth continuing. It's the challenge that being a volunteer here is very difficult, and I think providing a career path into a professional role will help. Thank you very much.
I would echo what Al said. I think Elk Creek does a very good job of training their volunteer firefighters. In speaking with Chief Ware and a lot of the current firefighters that explained to me the volunteer training program is probably one of the most robust training programs in the Denver metro area. The biggest problem everybody faces across the nation is finding a way to retain the volunteers that they have and to recruit people to work for free. The fact of the matter is the younger generations are not as likely to volunteer for anything. They want to be paid. To be a volunteer firefighter and EMT, it's not like you see less stuff than a career firefighter. You're being exposed to traumas, and your PTSD risk is going up, and you're not getting paid to do that. Colorado has one of the highest cost of livings in the country. Families require two paying incomes. They can't afford to have one person volunteer. So I firmly believe that there needs to be a balance between volunteer and career firefighters. You know, if my grandmother's at my house and she falls down and breaks her leg, a volunteer EMT cannot give her pain medication, so she will be forced to travel, be transported in an ambulance down to the hospital without pain medication. We need to find that balance between the career firefighters and the volunteers.
I'd like to say a few things about the volunteers. I've met with the volunteers, and I have nothing but respect for them. They are important. They are very important to the Elk Creek Fire Protection District. For many years as a business owner, maintenance, staff retention, education, contract negotiation, and being responsible to the taxpayers will be my priority, which includes labor costs. Keeping up with the growing demand is crucial. Focusing on real solutions and not false promises is my commitment. The volunteers are integral and a crucial part of the department. I would very much like to see additional enticements and benefits extended to the volunteers. Volunteerism requires a significant commitment of time and money. That commitment should be rewarded and encouraged. We are not doing enough for our volunteers.
Well said, sir, well said. Ultimately, recruiting volunteers, I think there's a lot of people that want to volunteer. I think that they just don't know that they have the option to do that. I think if we build a great department with equipment, training, all of these things, then you're going to bring in these people. There's a lot of new families in this area, and I think that they're just brimming with time that they want to put forth towards the community that they may have just moved into. I think it's imperative that this district get to those people. The other way is that currently, and I went through the training, it is great training. Right now, and as far as I know, currently, you still have to have firefighter 1, you have to have EMS, or at least basic responder, and some hazmat. Also, probably more so wildland. If we can break it up so that you can have people focused in a certain area, in medical, in fire, in wildland, in hazmat, and utilize the people for the time that they have, I think that's awesome. I think that's the way you really bring that in. In regards to paid people treating medical or giving drugs, it doesn't matter if you're a volunteer. If you're a volunteer paramedic, you can go ahead and treat that patient.
Thank you so much. Okay. Oh, I'm so sorry.
So I have a bunch of data on volunteers. In fact, in the Triton report, they talk about specific volunteers, and what we used to call it was the EMT next door. We had EMT kits distributed all over the whole district when I was volunteering here, and we had EMTs that could respond in the middle of the night from their house. And if you retain volunteers such as that, there's no need to recruit, because your volunteers recruit new volunteers. We also used to have career firefighters that had jobs in the city and come up here and volunteer. And what they call that in the IFF is two-hatters, and they will not do that if there's a union presence here. So we automatically we'll never have a two-hatter come up here, or very rarely will anybody break that rule. It's actually a career firefighter down in the city. The experience those people brought to us as volunteers was unmeasurable. We need our paid staff, and we need to recruit volunteers. And the volunteers we need, they're the parents of the kids at this school. And we gotta make sure that they're not overburdened on time. If we load too much stuff on them, then they will not volunteer.
everyone will be reminded to hold their applause until the end. Thank you. All right, for our next question, it is what do you perceive as Elk Creek Fire's greatest challenges, and what specific solution do you propose to each of the problems that you think merit the greatest challenges? And we'll start with Kathleen. Sure. What do you perceive as Elk Creek Fire's greatest challenges, and what specific solution or solutions do you propose for each problem?
I think probably the first and foremost greatest challenge of Elk Creek is living in this wildland urban interface and trying to figure out the best way to protect our community. Previously they had the chipping program. They're now rolling out a new version of it, trying to handle things by a neighborhood basis as opposed to just chipping people's piles. I think they're using a science-based approach, which with my engineering background definitely makes sense to me. And trying to get people to understand in the community outreach so that everybody understands kind of what's going on in the fire department, where everybody fits in, that everybody has a voice, and that everybody deserves to be heard. You know, I think over the last year there's been a lot of negativity at board meetings. That would be another challenge. I've been attending them for over a year and a half now, and the vitriol that exists in those meetings is palpable and painful to watch and endure, and it makes me feel bad for the volunteer firefighters, the career firefighters, and the community.
I see our greatest challenge is planning for the future. Conifer's going to grow. We need to plan for that. We need to maintain our facilities, maintain our equipment. We need staff retention. And most of all, I think we need a greater degree of transparency. Too much has been handled without informing the taxpayers. Yes, you can find the information, you can dig for it, but that isn't the way that it should be. The taxpayers don't have time for that sort of thing. We should be told clearly and upfront and publicly about expenses, about the needs of the fire department. People understand. They will pay attention. They will read the information if it's presented in a reasonable fashion, and they'll do what's right. I have no doubt. I have confidence in the people around me. But I am also concerned that we need to make sure that we use the taxpayers' money wisely and not ask for additional money unless it's absolutely necessary to best make that case. Thank you.
So I think one of the biggest challenges that we have is that we have a division within, and I'm speaking of just Elk Creek because that's really all I know fire department was, and it's been some years ago, but what I saw when I was there was a growing paid staff and a shrinking volunteer staff. There's some kind of division between that, and personally I think that it needs to be based on a volunteer structure, and the volunteers really need to be augmented with paid staff. I think that's how it was supposed to be designed. That's how it was when I started. There was paid staff that helped the volunteer staff, and now it seems like it's more volunteer staff helping the paid staff. I think that's a problem that needs to be addressed. The shrinking volunteerism, I think it's one of the things that we have not spent a lot of time out recruiting. There used to be a banner at Station 4 every, I think it was November, October, November, and asking people to join. I haven't seen that banner in a long time. It sounds like we canceled the rookie class for this year. That's a problem. We need volunteers. We need everybody that we can get to take care of our constituents, our friends and our family.
Could I get that question again, exactly?
Sorry. What do you perceive are Elk Creek Fire's greatest challenges, and what specific solution do you propose for each problem?
Well, in 2 minutes, you can't talk about the greatest challenges, but one thing, one of my priorities would be certainly a service plan. The service plan, or what's considered a service plan for Elk Creek Fire, was written in 1949 or something. And it basically says we're gonna buy fire trucks and build buildings to put them in. So a service plan is integrally important to plan for anything in the future. And so that would be my number one thing to do, first of all. Every one of these reports, through the Triton report, the new strategic plan report, which is basically a big SWOT analysis, every single one of them talks about volunteers and talks about strife between paid volunteers and talks about the volunteers are not responding to calls at Elk Creek especially. They mentioned that. They even have data that Triton did comparing intercanyon volunteers at the same time as Elk Creek. Elk Creek with a paid staff had less responding volunteers, less firefighters responding per call than a fully volunteer fire department. And so we need to address the volunteer staffing for sure, immediately. And to have a wildland team here of volunteers that can just drop everything for the very rare, quick volunteer initial attack on wildland fires is important.
So what are the biggest challenges? The biggest challenge we've talked about here several times is that the district is changing. The needs of the district are changing. And we've heard about planning for the future. We've heard about recruiting more volunteers. But the district has clearly told us they're not there. All right? The young family, I know several young families that live in my neighborhood. Both of them have jobs. Both of them don't have the time. So what do? We unify. Unifying adds resources to the district, both from personnel, from a second man station, so that people are getting to you more quickly. So what would I do? Work with the leadership to make sure we're heading in that direction. Inflation and lead times for new equipment. There's only 3 manufacturers of fire engines in the U.S. The cost for facility upgrades, wage increases, competition for wages from down the hill who we're competing with for firefighters. What would I do there? Work with the leadership to ensure and continue the sound fiscal management of the fire district. This fire district is very well managed. There are significant resources to address these issues. By unifying with Conifer Fire, there become even more financial resources for this district. And in addition to mill levies, there's the Senate Bill 24-194 provides special districts now the opportunity to look for other funding sources. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So that wraps up our first portion of this forum, and now we're going to move on to the second portion. These are questions that came from audience and community members that were sent to us by yesterday. And so we'll start with, and candidates will also have 90 seconds to answer these as well. And the first of these questions is, in addition to emergency fire response, fire, rescue, and medical, Elk Creek Fire currently offers, among others, services in mitigation, chipping, home hardening, defensible space, and public education. What other services could Elk Creek provide? And we'll start with Tom.
Well, first of all, I'm going to say that people live in the mountains because they want to live among trees and wildlife. Education about wildlife risk is important, as well as helping out the folks who want to stay in their homes and truly need help. Government mandates and force solutions aren't the answer. like to see that we provide better services for the folks in the area. Wildlife management or wildfire management is important. However, there are other resources available. There's the Jeffco slash program. There's the slash facility at the top of the hill. There are stepping in and helping your neighbors. And most importantly, I'm afraid, doing a lot of it yourself or paying to do it yourself. We are self-sufficient people, and that should be respected. It's part of who we are. Thank you.
Question again?
So in addition to emergency responses, fire rescue, medical, Elk Creek Fire currently offers, among other services, in mitigation, chipping, home hardening, and public education. What other services do you think that the fire district could provide?
Well, I think that really we need to provide the services that we have and make them really great. MVAs on 285 all the time. Structure fires, not so much. Medical, quite a bit. Wildland fires, not so much. We do have wildland fires. Back when I was on the department, we had a team called the 285 Wildcats, stretched the whole corridor. There are many, many members, North Fork, Inner Canyon, Platte Canyon, Indian Hills, multiple departments. Everybody kind of got together, they all trained together. And yes, there are volunteers. Indian Hills has like 60 volunteers. They're completely volunteer. I'm sure that there's 60 people in this district because their district is much smaller. I think that additional services, I think the chipping program is great, but I think it really should be focused on people that need it in regards to the ability to pay for it. There are many companies within this area that's what their job is. I don't want to see Elk Creek getting into the electrical business. So I think that we need to keep in our lane and do the things that we are supposed to do to the top notch. And chipping for elderly and mitigating for elderly, awesome. And community. We should all get together and have something for each other.
So this is a perfect setup for needing a strategic or a service plan, because we have to know our capabilities. We have to have a capability study. We have to know what we can provide, and just not knowing or not having a direction on what it is that the fire district does has caused our admin costs to go from about $350,000 to way over $1 million in just the last 5 or 6 years. This is a concern that we're overextending the capacities of the fire district. Somebody calls 911, that's our job as a fire district. We go and take care of that first. That's our #1 priority, to handle 911 calls. And guess what? A wildland fire is a 911 call. We have to be able to staff an initial attack, because if we lose that fire at, hey, they got one at 1 acre just the other day. And that's what we need. We need to catch these fires at 1 acre, not go into this giant air attack and upper level NWCG management. We need to catch these fires quick on initial attack as much as we can.
Well, just to build on that, that's why we need more firefighters. That's why we need unification, so that the wildland fire risk around us can be handled immediately. It was a while, if you look back to the Courier fire, it was a while before the state and the feds and the hot shots and the helicopters and the great airplanes they've got came. All right, those were our people, our resources. And that right there is why we need a well-funded, well-staffed fire district. We already provide fire, EMS, and wildland very well. We have a great district here. The challenge is, as I've said several times tonight, this community is evolving. The fire district needs to evolve with it. Denver is growing to us. whether you like it or not. People that live here commute to Denver, all right? This has become a suburb of Denver. One of the things, in addition to what we already do, the things that we do, we have a strategic plan. That was rolled out last year. I sat in a room and participated in the community input process of that. There are plenty of opportunities for the community to get information and to participate in the process. A service that I might like to see the district add is the community paramedic. I believe that Conifer Fire, the Inner Canyon started that, and I think that would be a great service for our aging population. Thank you.
So with all of the services that Elk Creek currently provides, it seems to be extensive, correct? And I would think the focus needs to be, it seems like maybe we need to work on the community outreach so people truly understand the services that are currently provided and what Elk Creek does offer them. Really work on those wildfire ambassador program, get some more in place so that that outreach and that communication is there so people know what Elk Creek can do and people also know what they're responsible to do. Because to live in this area, you move up here knowing you're moving into the trees, like Tom said. We all like living up here because of the trees. Well, the trees also catch on fire. And yes, we'd like to attack every wildland fire at an acre, but sometimes it doesn't happen when the winds kick up. Conditions are bad, it's been dry for a while, you're going to need an attack. So every community member really needs to work on taking care of their own property because Elk Creek Fire cannot mitigate everybody's property. So I think if we spend more time focusing on the education of the people in this community so they know how we can all work together to make this community one of the safest places to live in Colorado, as opposed to one of the areas with the highest wildfire risk in the state and in the country.
Okay, thank you all so much. Our second question of this portion is, with continued growth in the community and the potential for increased demand on emergency services, how do you view the role of diversifying the fire department's funding sources? And we will start this with Todd Wagner. With continued growth in the community and the potential for increased demand for emergency services, how do you view the role of diversifying the fire department's funding sources, or how would you diversify them?
Well, I don't know how we need to diversify. We have a tax assessment that went through the roof over the last year or two. I think we have plenty of funding coming in. Utilizing that money in regards to equipment, I think that's a really good way to go about it. I don't understand why we waited so long to order 2 engines. Big Bird has been, there's an engine called Big Bird. It's been around since I was on the department. It's probably should have been replaced 10 years ago, but it hasn't been. So we just ordered 2 new engines that we're going to lease. That's $600,000 in lease payments. We didn't put it out to bid. I think that would be some diversification there. I think that there's a lot of ways to utilize the money a little bit better and build the department for the paid staff, their quarters, volunteers, in-district volunteers. Started going to out-of-district volunteers when I was on the department. That is people that don't really know this district. If any of you have spent any time in the district, getting around this district is very challenging. The roads around here are tough to try and map. I drive around it all the time, and I still get lost. So I think focusing on a mapping system would be a really good thing. I'll pass it on to the next person.
So according to the data from Triton report, our community isn't growing at the rate that people seem to think. So we have to really look at the data, and even the data in the Triton report is a little bit questionable because it says our population is 17,000, 15,000, and 12,000 in the same report. So, so to really look at that, we have to look at the data. Everybody here that lives here owns a house, and that house pays for the fire service in this district. And I don't know about anybody else, but my taxes went up exponentially in the last round. And so that's where we're getting a lot of money from. I don't know, I mean, some volunteer fire departments have bake sales, but I don't really see the need for that. We just need to streamline our budget and make sure we're not wasting money on things that we don't need, such as an honor guard, $10,000 we paid for 4 guys to walk a flag around. That's not good spending of our limited resources.
So I think the idea of diversifying funding sources is a good idea. Senate Bill 24-194 that was passed last year was passed because districts are having trouble getting the funds they need to provide the services that the taxpayers and the residents require. So they passed that bill, allows for a couple things. One of them is impact fees. And I've talked to Chief Ware, this was brought up at several board meetings, and this is something that the district is looking at to find alternate sources of revenue other than property tax revenue. Now, I think the thing that's really important to understand, in the state of Colorado, the Fire Protection District is the tail at the end of the dog with respect to property taxes. Jeffco does the property tax appraisals. They're the ones that determine what your property's worth. Jeffco determined in 2023 your property value went way up. The de-gallerization at the state level threw the residential assessment rate out the window, which is you take your property value, multiply that by the assessment rate, and you get your taxable value. All of that happens before the fire district applies its revenue, its mill levy. So basically, we need potentially other sources of revenue in case of the state going out of whack or the county going out of whack, which is HB 24-1001.
Okay, so how to deal with continued growth? Well, one easy way to open up alternative funding sources is to unify with Conifer Fire. By unifying with Conifer Fire, we're providing more opportunities for grants and funding. We will now be a 400 square miles of Jeffco and Park County in the wildland-urban interface. That will enable us to pull resources and apply for various and different kinds of grants. So if we need potential sources of alternative funding, number one, unification. To speak to Al's comments on impact fees, just so everybody knows, because I didn't know what is an impact fee until I started going to these board meetings and I talked to Chief Ware. So someone on top of Shadow Mountain is building a new subdivision, a small subdivision, I believe it has 9 lots. You can assess them an impact fee, X amount per lot, that the developer pays one time. That money goes directly to Elk Creek, and then that can be used for building improvements and new equipment. So I think, providing alternative funding sources is twofold. Unifying and becoming part of Conifer Fire, and these impact fees that were passed in Senate Bill 194. Thank you.
I would contend that we could limit growth to sustainable growth in the area. We were able to, through non-selective discussions, limit some ridiculous recent growth, in my opinion. Making multifamily 3-story housing, adding a bike park, those kind of things would have impacted this district in a very detrimental way. we would have paid for those services through our taxes to the benefit of developers. That's wrong. Regardless of impact fees, though, it's not a bad idea. Diluting the funds available from Elk Creek, the $7 million in reserve, is not to our benefit. That money was paid for by you, the taxpayers, and needs to be dealt with as our money, not distributed among others. Counting on state funds and federal funds is wishful thinking. It's not going to happen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone, and we have one more question for this particular portion. It is, Elk Creek Fire is a unionized department, and collective bargaining plays a role in decisions that affect staffing, compensation, and working conditions. How do you view the role of labor unions in the fire service, and how would you approach working with union leadership to ensure both firefighter well-being and the delivery of high-quality service to the public? And we'll start back with Michael.
So, as I said before, we need paid staff, and it's valuable to have some paid staff. My opinion of the International Association of Firefighters, it's not like a labor union, it's not an electricians union, they don't train people to be firefighters. It's a political entity, and what they do is they lobby for more money and less volunteers, and I don't think that's very effective. From a board perspective, that's operational. That's not something the board deals with. The board members are a fiduciary to the taxpayer. They're not dealing with unions. They're not doing any of that stuff. That's all operational.
I think there's an absolute place for the union. I respect the union. The firefighter union looks out for the health, well-being, and safety of the people that come and respond to us when we need them. You know, I look at the union as providing the resources that help us. Did you know that the leading cause of death among firefighters is cancer? Occupationally caused cancer. And the IAFF, the CPFF, all work to provide firefighters with the correct health, safety, and well-being so that they can be there when we need them. I think it's a matter of working with the union, having good leadership within the fire district and the union, and working towards collaboration. Collaboration seems to be a bad word these days, but I absolutely think, and I see it today, collaboration with the district, the union, and volunteers. And I think as long as we can keep those things going, we're in good shape.
So the role of the labor unions, as I said in my opening statement, I currently serve on the Colorado Professional Firefighters Foundation. That is the charitable arm of the union, who supports firefighters, paramedics, and their families when bad things happen. Like Al said, cancer is one of the highest, the risk for cancer in a firefighter is so much higher than everybody else. Another leading cause of death in firefighters, unfortunately, is suicide. I'm a firm believer, and the labor unions have been advocating for this for a while now, in providing the mental health care services necessary to help these firefighters get through what they see every day. My husband was a retired firefighter, and there were stories that he started telling me that I couldn't share with you right now. The stuff that they see every day, even up here, is a lot to handle. So I firmly believe that labor unions serve a purpose. They make sure their union members and the volunteers have the best equipment. their health, good health care, safe, mental and physical well-being. They support firefighters when they're ill. And I just think, there's no reason why the board cannot work collaboratively with the chief and with the unions and coming up with common sense solutions for these problems.
I'd like to say, I've been a union vice president. I've negotiated contracts. I've also been management. And I'll say that your union leader here of the firefighters union does an excellent job. She's very good at what she does. However, I will say that when both sides leave the negotiating table grumbling because they didn't get everything they wanted, but commit to work together, it's probably a good deal. I will not participate in rubber stamps. Negotiation is required for contracts. And from what I can see, that's not been done. Thank you.
So, being an electrician for well over 30 years, I also was a union member, was an organizer, I was a business agent, I negotiated. I've spent many decades within the union, so I understand it very well. Kind of like what Mike said, we are not the party that would be negotiating with desk operations. That contract needs to happen within the department for the pay staff. Currently, West Metro, I think, is roughly $105,000 for a baseline pay for a firefighter. I don't see how we can afford that in this district. We run about 2,000 calls if we were collective. If you do the numbers, it doesn't work out. The union, I believe wholeheartedly in it. I think it's a great thing. I also think that it has its boundaries, and it doesn't seem as though it helps the volunteers. The volunteers deal with cancer. The volunteers deal with people that are calls that are tough to deal with. I think we got to focus on taking care of those people as well, and spend the resources and take care of all those people that are out there that need the help, that are not getting it from a union.
Okay, thank you everyone for your responses tonight. We have one final question before we get to closing statements. This question will be limited to 1 minute per candidate. And the question is, what is your highest priority for Elk Creek Fire Protection District, and how would you accomplish your goal as a board member? And we'll start with Al again. Well, my highest priority for the fire district would be to see unification through. It was approved 4-1 by the board. The Board of County Commissioners recently affirmed that decision, stating that the unification process was handled legally. So basically, my priority is moving into implementation. And as a board member, the financial oversight and ensuring that the taxpayers are represented as part of that evolution towards unification. It's got the green light. How would I accomplish it? Again, working within the board, working with the leadership of the fire district, and hopefully not so much with the lawyer stopping the legal blockages. Thank you.
I would echo what Al said. My highest priority would be to complete this unification. 4 members of the board voted in favor of it. Based on the bylaws of the board, once the board decides something, no one board member can take any actions against that decision. The Board of County Commissioners affirmed that decision, saying that Elk Creek Fire could unify with Conifer Fire. So my highest priority would be to get that unification done, get it implemented, and let's move forward. And then work collaboratively with the board and with the chiefs in getting this executed and getting back to the fundamental basics of a fire protection district board. Thank you.
Could you read the question one more time, please?
The final question is, what is your highest priority for Elk Creek Fire Protection District, and how would you accomplish that goal as a board member?
My highest priority would be to move on. If unification has been ratified, if it goes through the court system, so be it. Personally, I've read the exemption, and as far as I'm concerned, it was a bad deal for the citizens of Elk Creek. There was too much non-disclosure. However, I'm not willing to move in the direction of spending more money on lawyers and fees to deal with the past. We do need to move forward. However, if unification is not approved, I'd like to see it go in front of the voters and full disclosure given. Thank you.
I'm going to kind of echo what Tom here said. Ultimately, unification has subverted the taxpayers. The taxpayers voted against it. It was an end around and pushed forward, and I think that's wrong. I think that the transparency was not good as well. The final cost of unification, I hope somebody knows what it is, because I don't, and I've looked at a lot of numbers. But I think that needs to be put forth to the taxpayers, and I do think that if it doesn't go, if the legal issues end up erasing it, that it should be put forth to the voters again if that's what we need to do, and that's the direction that the community wants to go forth, and exactly what it's going to cost, because I think it's well beyond anything that anybody in this room has a concept.
So other than the service plan that I've mentioned a bunch of times, my top priority would be budget control. I look at, I have the audits from many years. In 6 out of the last 8 years, our audit has said that we've been over budget. That needs to be controlled, and the board needs to control that. I think we can't possibly be over budget in this next round because they've padded the budget so much that it's just insanely over. I also pick up data from the monthly income statements, and every year that I've got data for, the board or the district has spent more than the board approved to be spent.
Okay, thank you so much, candidates. This has been wonderful. We will now move into closing statements, and each candidate will be given 2 minutes to wrap those up. Because we started with opening statements on this side of the table, I'm going to start closing statements on this side. So we will begin with Todd Wagner and finish with Michael.
So closing statements touched a lot of topics, and ultimately unification is not going to increase our call response. If you have 2 paid stations or stations that have paid people in it, that is not going to move anybody closer to your home if you're in Will-O-Wisp. So I don't know how that's going to work out. You've got to get centralized stations, and we absolutely need more volunteers and well-trained volunteers. And I believe that we need volunteers from our districts. They are the ones that are in the community. They understand the community. They know the people. That's, in my opinion, the recruiting. You have people that are talking to people at the schools and the churches and the community. They're all talking together. That's what brought me into the district. Mike Bartlett was the one that brought me into this district and became a firefighter. I enjoyed the heck out of it, and you know, it is a safety concern. And you know, everybody knows that running into a burning building is probably not the smartest thing to do. Everybody knows that, you know, sitting on the side of a highway tending to somebody that's hurt is probably not really safe. But we as a community need to do it. There's nobody else up here to do it, so we have to do it ourselves. There's a lot of money to try and pay for people to do that, and I don't believe with the amount of calls that we could potentially have during one run, you can't spread those resources over the area. It's just not sustainable. You'd need at least 100 paid firefighters to try and cover the district. That is not surmountable. It's like $8 million plus all the buildings that we would have to get them housed in. It's out of control. Sorry, Tom.
It's my final comment. I'll commit to working with the chief and the fellow board members. Displays of inappropriate behavior at board meetings and on Zoom need to stop. I will bring mutual respect and credibility back to the department. Personal conversations with consideration to sunshine laws go a long way. Transparency and full disclosure are critical. People should not have to search so hard for information. Board members do need to make choices, and I don't shy away from tough decisions. But I want my choices to be made with facts and information. I am a member of this community. My agenda is providing the best return on investment and being a good steward of taxpayer money. I have taken the time to meet with and listen to the firefighters, individual board members, and the chief. I will commit to listening to the taxpayers. Communication needs to improve, and I will commit to that process. I have the time and will do the work needed to make Elk Creek Fire Department or the consolidated Conifer Fire Department better. Experience has taught me that being a team member and collaborating with others make for arriving at the best possible solution. Thank you for your time tonight, and special thanks to Eric Heinz and the Canyon Courier. Information on my campaign and my position will be posted on all the major media websites, Nextdoor, X, Instagram, and Facebook. Your questions are welcome. Thank you.
If elected, I will bring a common sense, logic-based perspective rooted in my background as an engineer. More importantly, I will bring a deep commitment to listening, learning, and working collaboratively with the community, with fellow board members, and with the brave personnel of Elk Creek Fire. I commit to follow the bylaws of the Elk Creek Fire Board. Living here in the wildland-urban interface, I understand the real and growing risks we face. I will work hard to ensure that our district has resources and funding needed to prioritize neighborhood protection and long-term resilience. Beyond strategy and funding, this role is also about people. After meeting and talking with the chief, my husband, firefighters, both volunteer and career, paramedics, and members of the Conifer Wildland Division, I've gained a better understanding of the physical, emotional, and mental toll this profession can take. These heroic men and women show up for us every day, often in the hardest moments of our lives. I believe they deserve our full support, including access to the mental and physical health tools they need to thrive. I would be honored to serve on this board, not just to keep our district moving in the right direction, but to help strengthen the bond between this fire department and the community it protects. I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and do the work, and I hope to earn your trust and your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Great comments. This election is about the safety and resiliency of our community As a newer resident, I bring a fresh perspective to Elk Creek Fire Protection District through the Community Ambassador Program, where I've been a volunteer for 3 years and a co-coordinator, attendance at board meetings for 3 years, and collaborating with our volunteers and paid staff over that 3 years. I see both the high quality of the personnel and an organization adapting to change. We must continue Elk Creek Fire Protection District's evolution. It's been evolving since 1948, adding paid firefighters in 1990 and continuing to grow as the needs of the district continue to grow and change. As a board member, I support Elk Creek Fire Protection's district mission, which is to encourage and promote life safety and risk reduction, to provide fire suppression and emergency services, and to make our mountain community a safe place to live, work, and play. That's what our fire district's about. The board of directors exists to provide financial oversight and use its best efforts to ensure that Elk Creek is financially sound, providing the high-quality fire EMS and wildland services to the community and giving the benefits, giving our firefighters the benefits they need for their health, safety, and well-being. I also pledge to collaborate with the fire district and other board members and to adhere to the bylaws of Elk Creek Fire Protection District. I hope I've earned your vote. If you have further questions, I have a website, I'm on social media, unfortunately a little bit too much. I'd appreciate your vote. Thank you.
All right, like I said, I've been a volunteer firefighter for a long time. I've been on hundreds of wildland fires in this district, slightly outside of this district. I never went to California. I never went to Arizona. I never went on a federal fire unless it was in this district. And so my vision is to, with what I already know, to get more volunteers, to get that staff working together if we can. That's an operational issue. It has to be done from the leadership level. But the board can use resources, we can collect data, we can ask for data. We haven't seen a annual report from this fire district since 2007 is the last one I saw. So as a board, we can't make rational decisions without correct data, and it has to be data that is trustworthy. So if we can't get accurate, trustworthy data, there's nothing we can do. It's a free-for-all out there. So I was actually the treasurer of the board years and years ago. I know a lot about the ins and outs of the income statements and like that. My goal would be to secure the budget, make sure the budget process is done correctly. The board is completely in charge of that budget, and it just seems like it just rubber stamps whatever goes through, and we need to correct that. Thank you. I don't have social media.
All right, well, thank you, candidates, and thank you all for joining us tonight for this Elk Creek Fire Protection District Board of Directors Election Forum. Please remember, Election Day is May 6th, and polling places will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on that day. A list of drop-off locations for ballots is available at elkcreekfpd.colorado.gov/transparency/elections. Once again, that is elkcreekfpd.colorado.gov/transparency/elections. Thank you once again, and good night.